Hi everyone, I'm Claire and I run Climbing Goat Designs, and welcome to my very first Flosstube video. I've been enjoying watching other people's videos over the last year or so, and so I thought I would have a go at doing a few myself, and I thought I could share some updates of what's going on in my shop and what other people are doing, stitching the patterns. Maybe talk about space a bit, because I love space and space patterns, and I also love rainbows and temperature patterns and animals and lots of other things. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to know you all a bit better. I'm here in the south coast of England in Dorset, where it is currently sunny, and I'm looking at a blue sky, which is quite surprising after quite a grey week. So first up, I thought that I would talk about the Rainbow Temperature Galaxy, which is a pattern that I released in November 2021, and loads of people did it last year. It's a temperature pattern, which means you stitch a little piece of colour for each day relating to the temperature of the day. So I've made a little video of some people's pictures that they've shared of their completed galaxies from last year, which is really wonderful. They all gave me permission in my Facebook group to share the pictures. Unfortunately, I haven't added their names on because that was beyond my editing and energy capabilities at this point. So sorry about that, but thank you very much. And here you can see some completed temperature galaxies. Thank you very much everyone for sharing those. That's been really wonderful to see them all growing. You might have noticed that the first ones in the pictures had one colour going through the spiral, and the later ones had two colours, which the first ones are the maximum only version of the pattern, and the second ones were the maximum and minimum version. So I've printed out the front pages of all my temperature patterns because I thought that that would be easier than me pointing at an imaginary picture, and I thought I could explain how they work a bit. So this is the Rainbow Temperature Galaxy that you've just been seeing. So this was my first pattern. So here in the middle you write the year, and then you personalize it to your place. And it doesn't have to be this year. People do a past year where their child was born, or they got married or moved house or something special. And so each spiral runs through the year. So you start, well, each spiral runs for 3 months. So you start here, I think it says in the instructions, and it runs all the way up here. So you just carry on spiraling around. Then you can see here there's a little break. That's the end of January. So you see each colour block is a day. If there's an extended bit, then it's 2 days that were the same temperature. Then it carries on through February, and there are 2 separate versions of the pattern included for leap years and for non-leap years, and that applies to all my temperature patterns. And then you come round here to the end of March, and that's then the end of the 3 months. Then you start again here in April, and you spiral round end of April, and then to May and June. No, I've lost track of my spiral. Then out here to June, so you can see the colours getting warmer into the reds, and then here starting July, and so on. Which is great because it means everyone has an existential crisis every 3 months when they have to start a new spiral and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm this far through the year, which is frightening, but at least you have achieved a galaxy as you go. And how you do it is that you set up a color key assigned for your temperatures. You look up online the temperatures for your area, the maximum and minimums of the last few years, and then I've got really comprehensive instructions and keys to set it up. There's about 7, I think, different color keys with extended numbers of colors, so that you set those up relating to your temperature. Because some people say, oh, I live in a really hot place, it's not going to work, my pattern would all be red or it'll all be blue because I'm really cold. But it's not true. Like, you set it up so that it corresponds to your temperature, and so therefore you should get the full range. If you obviously live in a place where the temperature almost never varies throughout the year, then that might not be great, but on the plus side, you get to probably have a great life sitting on the beach a lot. But if you have some variation in temperature, then yeah, you fit the scale to your temperatures in your place, and there are really comprehensive instructions of how to do this in the booklet, and then there's some pages where you can write in the temperature each day and set up your color key and everything. So this is the maximum temperature for each day. It's got one block of color for each day on the spiral, which will be the highest temperature. It's not really going to work using averages, because that's just going to sort of average out into a bit of a blob. If you had a really hot day and a really cold night, the average would just be some sort of meaningless number in the middle. So it's better to use the higher temperatures. And then this version is the maximum and minimum version. So this is a separate version of the pattern that you buy separately. Again, like all my patterns, this is the non-leap year version, but it comes with separate leap year versions included, and all the letters and alphabets for doing the text in the middle. So it's the number of stitches, the placement of stitches is exactly the same as for the first galaxy. It's simply that each spiral arm is split along the middle, if you can see, and you do the minimum temperature of the 24 hours on the inside of the spiral and the maximum temperature on the outside, and it goes around like that, and so you have this greater variety of temperatures, and you're recording both the maximum and the minimums. So it's exactly the same number of stitches. It's obviously a little bit more involved. You've got to change threads more often, but a lot of people like to do that. Yeah, I didn't mention the stars in the last when I was talking about the other version. Again, they've both got the stars the same, these little white dots all over it to give it that starry galaxy effect. So the stars are not dependent on temperature. They are just added in a colour that you like. So on the black fabric example, I've done them in white, but a lot of people have done them in a 12 thread, a metallic thread. Some people do a special coloured star if it coincides with a birthday or an anniversary. And yeah, if you stitch it on white, which you can stitch this on absolutely any colour. It doesn't have to be on black. I know some people hate stitching on black fabric, so that's fine. You can then just change the colours of the stars to purple or something dark that's going to show up, and obviously change the colour of the middle text as well. Some people do glow in the dark thread for the stars, which looks great. Yeah, so that is the Rainbow Temperature Galaxy, and that was the only temperature pattern that I had last year through the year, which is why that's the only one I've got the people's completed pieces of. But this year I also have 4 more temperature patterns, and it's really wonderful seeing all of those progress in the group. I've got my Facebook group, Climbing Goat Design Stitches, if anyone wants to come and see people's progress pictures and share your own. It's so lovely chatting to you all in there. So this year we have loads of people doing the galaxy, both again and for the first time. We also have the Rainbow Temperature Supernova. So I designed this to match the galaxy on the space theme. They both fit in an 11-inch hoop, so they match exactly in terms of size, and obviously they're both going on the space theme. So a supernova is a large star, much bigger than our sun. At the end of its life, it will explode in a supernova. It obviously doesn't look quite like this, but it is an explosion, and that was the inspiration. Some people have said it looks like a firework, which it is really, because of fireworks and explosion. So if you like fireworks, that's also cool. So with this one, you've got the the central piece again as before, but with this one, each sort of outgoing line is 1 week of the year. So this is the first week here, I think, or here, and so you start in the middle and it comes up here to the end of the week. Then you start down here again at the next week, and you go up just in a line to the end of the week like this, and you just go all the way around. So you can see you're turning into the warm colours here for summer here in England, and then coming out again into the cold colours. Again, this is the maximum only version, so it's just got the maximum colours out. And again, we've got what I call the explosion marks. You've got the sort of the dots and these lines coming out to give that feeling of the supernova explosion. With that one, again, it's a colour that's not related to your temperatures. So just like with the galaxy, you can do it in glow in the dark or metallic or purple or pink or anything you feel like. So that's the rainbow temperature supernova. And then again, I have the rainbow temperature supernova with the maximum and minimum version. So this is just like the maximum and minimum version of the galaxy. You stitch it. Each line is split in two in this one. So you've got the maximum temperature on this side of the line, and then the minimum temperature on the other side, and you just again carry on through the weeks all the way around, and you get this more detailed explosion piece, which is recording both your maximum and minimum temperatures through the year. And so you can then of course have the two up next to each other for a really spacey temperature look if you want. And I have two other temperature patterns this year. One is the rainbow temperature heart. So this is now something completely different. It's looking slightly faint in that image. So you can see again, you've got your place and your year, which you have a full alphabet for, so you can customize it how you want. And for this, you do a little string of hearts for each month of the year. So you start, again, the instructions explain really comprehensively where you stitch in the pattern. You're not left going, where on earth do I stitch next this month? It's got arrows, it's got everything to show you what you do when. So you start here with this one, and you might be able to see little stripes in some of the hearts. So that's a sort of a stripe is per day of the colour. You might sort of see here. And so and the hearts are linked together into little strings which form a month. So this this string here is 5 hearts, and that's January, that bit. Then it goes up here like that into February. Then it comes around here to March, and then up here, I think, no, up here into April there, I think. I haven't got the instructions on me. And so you can see it warming up in the middle, then it comes down here and ends up at December at the end. So that's been really fun, and it's, some people particularly like it if it's for a year they got married or something special like that. It doesn't need to be, because you can just like hearts, because who doesn't really? And then I'll just have another drink. This is my final temperature pattern, which is called final for this year. There will hopefully be a lot more for you next year. This is called Stitch Your Year in Temperatures. So this one is really different. Oh yeah, the temperature heart one only comes in maximum only. So you don't have the maximum minimum version of that one. Just keeps it that much simpler and sleeker. This one is maximum and minimum only. So it doesn't have the maximum only version, because each little square has your maximum and minimum colour in it. So the outer of the square, or the background, is your minimum temperature, and the inner square or symbol is stitched in the colour of your maximum temperature. So I've called this Stitch Your Year in Temperatures. They kind of all are stitching your year, but this one is more your year because it's really personalised. So how it works is each little motif, each little square, you're given the layout of the squares to go round, and then you're given 143 different motifs, and you can personalise them according to what you did on that day. So you can see here there's a little train here, there's a computer, there's a frying pan, there's a little rainbow, there's religious symbols, there's an umbrella here for some rainy weather, gaming pumpkin here, and the clock's change, little clock, little there's a graduating hat for somebody who'd perhaps been to university. There's a church or religious building. There's motifs for festivals for all the major religions, hobbies, dogs, cats, travel, holidays, you know, pretty much most things that I could think to put in. So you don't need to personalise every day. You can see where, oh, that's a little book there for reading, little headphones, cross here for going to church, and a little dice for if you've been playing board games. So you don't need to, put a symbol for every day, because most of us don't do something memorable every day, so, and it might get a bit cluttered. So you can just do the little squares which are included in the chart, a bigger square and a smaller square alternating, and then when you fancy putting a symbol to record what you did on a particular day, you then stitch that symbol in the square slot because they're all the same size. And this one, it just starts here for the non-leap year version. The leap year version's got an extra day here, and it just comes out round like this, and it just spirals all the way around in a continual spiral until you get to the end, and it's got this border around the outside. So that's really fun to see people's version of that developing. That's been really enjoyable, and just to see all of them. I love seeing all your updates of the temperature charts and seeing people are starting them all the time, and that's just really great. So I wanted to share an update on what I'm stitching at the moment, but I can't because it's a future stitch along, which is usually the case. So I'm currently model stitching the snowflakes stitch along, which is for this Christmas, so I can't show you that, but it's looking good and hopefully you'll think so as well when we get to December. I've also been flat out on designing the stitch alongs for next January, which are dragons and James Webb Space Telescope. So I've got lots of more to do on them, but I'm really enjoying working on them. And it's been wonderful, everyone who is taking part in this year's big stitch along, which is Wonders of the Hubble Space Telescope. So this is my fourth astronomy stitch along. The second, you can see behind me here, it was the Wonders of the Solar System, which I'll probably show in more detail another time. And the first was Wonders of Space. The third was Wonders of the Night Sky, which was the constellations, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And this is the fourth, which is Wonders of the Hubble Space Telescope. And it's just brilliant how many people get involved with these. And we have everyone from people who know nothing about space and just think the pictures are pretty, which they are, and people who are astronomy lecturers and astronomers working in NASA, working in South America, working in Britain. It's just and I love hearing their stories. I love hearing everyone's stories, and I love talking about space and making patterns about space. I am quite a nerd. I do put as much accurate detail as I can into these patterns, because I just want it all to be there. I want it all to be accurate, as well as beautiful. And all my space stitch alongs have a section each month, writing, telling you about what you're stitching. I started doing this with the very first stitch along because I realized that some people were not going to know what such and such a blob actually was, and I wanted everyone to be included. And so I started writing a little bit explaining what you were stitching, and then that kind of grew, because mainly because it turned out I do really like talking about space a lot. So the writing sort of got a bit longer, and you get a big introduction at the beginning. This one's is called Wonders of the Hubble Space Telescope. So in the introductory booklet you get a section all about the Hubble Space Telescope, and I love researching all of this. It's very, very interesting. So this is part one. I've got this all beautifully model stitched, but I can't show it to you yet, obviously, because only part one has come out yet. So at the end of the year I'll hopefully show you the piece that I currently have up on the wall in the front. But meanwhile, this is part one, which is the nebula that people are stitching at the moment. So you get these blocks and squares and rectangles, which you can stitch at the beginning or not later on if you want. And then this is the first nebula, which is NGC 2818. So this is a planetary nebula. Planetary nebulae have nothing to do with planets. It's one of these historical misnomers that are just there to confuse people. They were initially named planetary nebulas because people were using obviously much more basic telescopes, and they started to think that they looked a bit like planets, or planetary systems. It turns out they have nothing to do with planets, but they're still called planetary nebulae. A nebula is a fuzzy blob of gas and dust. So they didn't really want to call them colourful fuzzy blobs, even though that would clearly have been an excellent name. So planetary nebula has ended up sticking. And we had some planetary nebulae in the Wonders of Space, and we got some more in this because they are some of the really nice sort of colourful pictures that you get. So planetary, what they are is when a star similar to our sun reaches the end of its life, it will puff off its outer layers as it dies, and they will expand away from the star, and you get a planetary nebula. So our sun will one day, in about 5 billion years I think, become one, probably not an asymmetrical one like this, though you never know, but it should be beautiful for a relatively short length of time astronomically, and then eventually you're just left with the white dwarf, very dense core of the star left in the middle, as the rest of the gas expands off into space, and eventually hopefully will condense to make new stars, new planets, and new people like us, or possibly aliens, because the fact that we are all made of star stuff is of course very much true. So that is the first nebula that everybody's stitching. That came out on the 10th of January. The second one comes out on the 25th of February, and I've done a sort of uneven release on this one because obviously the pictures, some of them are smaller than others. So we're doing 10th and sort of a month and a half between sections, so there's lots of time for everyone to keep up. Okay, you don't have to stitch it on dark fabric. You can stitch it on light fabric, because if you're filling in these anyway, then you're still going to get that spacey look. Yeah, so that's really fun. Really great to see everybody's progress pictures, and I'm really looking forward to sharing the next section with you all. And it's just really nice. People join all the way through the stitch along, so you're never going to be the last one to join. because at the end I release it as a complete pattern, so then people carry on joining. And I thought, yeah, that I would show you the completed the last space stitch along, which was Wonders of the Night Sky, which is the biggest so far. The Hubble one is a little bit smaller than this one. I don't know how it's going to work with the reflection. Oh, it's not too bad. Here we are. This is model stitched by Angie Sanders, who's one of my amazing model stitchers. So she's done all the stitching work on that. Right, the trouble is if I don't peer around it, I can't see what you're seeing. But hopefully that gives you the idea. It's heavy. Each put it down on the desk. Right, I'm resting on the desk and peering around now. So each star, the brightest 50th star in the sky, I've got a different symbol. I don't know if you can see that. You might see some of the stars are bigger. They've got different back stitches coming out of them to mark them out differently. This is the Milky Way in half stitches all the way across here. We've got the ecliptic, which is the path of the sun and the planets across the sky here. There's a key at the bottom, which you can't see at the moment. I hoik it up here, which explains what everything is in it. Then around the edge you've got phases of the moon. So this is the full moon, this is a gibbous moon, and we've got two crescent moons at the bottom, so going round in a circle that forms a sequence of the lunar phases. And then we've got a comet at the top, which is quite topical at the moment, and the Saturn at the bottom in the middle. Those are quite stylized versions, just to keep in with the sort of overall styling of the piece, of the background. And then each constellation is labelled. Hasn't got all the constellations in because there are loads, particularly in the southern hemisphere, lots of tiny ones. But it's got most of them in it, all the major ones. There, if I pair it like that, you can see the reflection. There's Camelopardalis here, I don't know how to pronounce that, where the comet has been anyway. It's moving towards Perseus and Auriga and into Taurus, which you might have seen on the news about this comet. Let me know if anyone's seen the comet. I have not, as I have comet envy. It's been cloudy, or I wasn't well enough to go out when it was clear, but there we are. I did see the 2020 comet, which was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and so this has been great. Lots of lovely to see so many people working on that one. And again, that comes with a lot of writing explaining a little bit about every single constellation, because that was a bit sort of all or nothing. I thought, well, should I just write about a few constellations? I thought, well, that's a bit weird. And I thought, well, you might as well just do it properly. So I wrote about them all, so you can learn a little bit about everything that you're stitching. Yeah, so I also thought on these videos that I could share my latest patterns that I've just been designing this year. So far this year, that is one pattern that I did this week, because all my work has been going onto the stitch alongs, which means that suddenly it all looks a bit quiet in terms of designs, when actually it's not behind the scenes, but I can't share it. So I have one pattern, which is the American Bulldog heart. This was a request back in December. I do requests on a very ad hoc basis, just according to whether I feel like it really, and whether I can manage it, and whether I think other people would like it. So feel free to ask for any requests. I love hearing them. I often don't manage to make them, and the people usually have to wait quite a while for them. But it's really nice to have that input. So she wanted American Bulldog heart for her friend, and here it is. So that's yeah, my new design update. So I think that is everything that I was going to say. So thank you so much for coming to my first video. I'm on Instagram at Climbing Goat Designs, if you want to follow me there. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page called climbing goat cross stitch designs, and we have our very busy Facebook group, Climbing Goat Design Stitchers, where you would be very welcome, and you can see what everyone else is stitching. We have monthly posts on what we're reading, what we're watching, and photos that we're taking on a theme, which is really nice because you get to see people's pictures from all around the world, and I do like to hear about what people are reading and everything, get ideas. Yeah, so I'll hopefully try and do another video in a bit, and thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.